Hey, YouTubers and Green Knights. Today we're going to bring you a little something special. So usually we have an episode release on Sundays, but we've had a little bit of
scheduling conflicts and some things that have made us get just a little bit behind, but we still want to bring you the content that you all deserve. So.
Yeah, which is going to be a bit of a DM confessional, retrospective, and prospective of Chronicles of Frostfire and Prophecy of Shadows. You'll get our perspective as a DM, how things have gone, how things maybe should have happened but didn't happen, how things are shaping up, and what you might see in the future for both campaigns.
Not necessarily spoilers, but maybe a little bit of just little breadcrumbs here and there.
Some foreshadowing.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to do this in two parts. The first will be talking about Chronicles of Frostfire.
Yep.
You'll see kind of behind the curtains, the wizard behind the Oz.
Yes.
And then Prophecy of Shadows. So we'll have that kind of demarcated in the chapters below in the video. Okay.
As always, make sure to
smite that
like button.
And subscribe. So, all right. So let's get into it. The first thing is going to be Chronicles of Frostfire.
Yes.
Now, this started quite some time ago. I'm talking about the Origins Chronicles of Frostfire.
Oh, the Origins.
5 or 6 years ago, roughly, right?
This was roughly right after, about within a year of me beginning to date your sister. You invited me to play D&D with the guys, and we started with these characters. That's when it began. So.
Yeah, these are the original characters for Razwar and John and Alice. They had a campaign. It's the first campaign, kind of a get to learn D&D, and that was the Lost Mines of Phandelver, which I'm sure
great starter campaign.
yeah, it's actually a fantastic starter campaign to learn the rules and everything. And I actually started that, and I don't think I was as good of a DM as I am now. Not that I'm amazing, I'm pretty darn good. I think I do all right. And that started in a tavern, just to do the whole D&D tropes. So Chronicles of Frostfire, the original character, started there in the tavern. John was a sorcerer and the whole bit. They went through and they fought the goblins and the orcs through the whole Lost Mines of Phandelver. And John, actually, we didn't know the rules that well for 5th edition at the time. John was doing double at the time. You had
yes, I was definitely twinning fireballs, which is very much not allowed. Yeah, so we were learning, we were growing, and creating these characters. And John, during that first campaign, is where he developed his phobia for bears, and also his love for Sister Gorel.
Yeah.
Now Risa, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, so the bear happened. This is, of course, all off camera before we started filming or doing anything on YouTube. The bear happened when they were spending the night camping out somewhere, I think outside of, south of Neverwinter.
Yes.
And John heard a noise. It was his turn on watch, did the roll, got perception, heard some noise. He's like, I'm a level 1 sorcerer. I'm going to check this out.
Like an idiot.
Yeah. And then it turned out, he's like, no, there's nothing. Rustling, boom, bear attack, surprise attack. And the bear actually succeeded to grapple on John with like a -1 strength John has.
Shocking, I know.
And so John is like, what can I do? Oh my God. He didn't yell anything. He's like, I'm going to cast Firebolt. And he rolls a 1 on Firebolt against, like, 1 damage against the bear. The bear's like, ah! And comes out on John. And just
clobbered me.
Finally yells to the party. That's the party comes and saves him. So that's John's bear phobia started off camera back in the day.
Deep-seated.
Fell in love with the first NPC in the first town.
Like you do.
In Phandalin. And that kind of trickled over to the campaign with Chronicles of Frostfire currently.
And we played all of this at your mom's house around the kitchen table.
Yeah.
And then we graduated to the dining room. The dining room table where we started to bring in the green screens and some of the early costumes. And Julia joined us, and Jess joined us eventually. Well, actually, no, Jess joined us in this space.
No, she joined on the.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah,
she did. That's when we started so after this home campaign finished, let's say the Lost Mine of Phandelver, and that was when John double twin fireball the end boss. I killed him in 1 shot and everything. And we said, okay, let's continue this. But at that time, there's other things going on. I kind of wanted to make this to put these up on YouTube, to make this visual, available for fans or family to watch. Yeah. I said, okay, what's a cool way to do that? What if we were like in the fantasy setting, right? So I was like, green screens, and we wore the costumes, right? And I was like, Green and Garb, and that's kind of the idea came from.
And I'm a costume actor, so this just was magic to my ears. Music to my ears, I should say.
So the costumes, all that came, and then I started with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That's when I came up with the idea of because it's AD&D, so I went with Adventures in Green and Garb, AG&G, and that's where that idea came from. And Green and Garb was
born.
Yeah, it was born there. And just like Mind Flayer Slayer just said, that's when we started the new campaign. That new campaign was actually the campaign book of what is it?
Storm King's Thunder.
The Storm King's Thunder. Yeah,
Yes.
the campaign was now everything really is. We use the campaign books, but we loosely follow them. I mean, some of the big story beats you might know if you played the campaign before, look at the book. But for the most part, it's all off the rails. Just some big story beats we use as background.
Which are still running. Some of those story beats are still running through into Chronicles.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And the Origins, we did Origins, right? It was the Storm King Thunder's book, and that's where I think you were 5th level at that time.
That is correct.
And Vahera came in, Amalia came in. That's I think most everybody.
Well, and then Basil came in.
Oh, Basil came as well, right at the very end. Yeah, and that's where we establish all the baseline of the characters, more or less, and a lot of the stuff we referenced to, like Bunga Bunga parties, and that's kind of happened there.
And the mining towns, which we haven't referenced in a minute.
And the Mind Flayer episode.
The Mind Flayer episode was there as well.
It's available. I don't know if it's our best work. It's not that we don't recommend it, but start with Chronicles of Frostfire.
Yeah, it's a little rough around the edges.
Yeah.
You know, we'll do one of those episodes at some point soon where we go back and like rewatch it, like, and we film us and our reactions.
Yeah, we'll have a cringe meter level.
Yes, we'll do that.
But we've improved a lot since then. Audio, video.
Yeah,
and
we're actually looking toward a new update soon. We're going to be getting some new audio equipment and some new camera equipment in the future at some point as well. But
leveling up.
Yes, we are leveling up because we want to keep bringing you the best content that you deserve to be experiencing. So we really want to step it up to the next level.
Of the D&D universe.
Indeed.
Yeah. Bring your own.
We got the studio space now, like really set. It's time to put a little bit more into our mics and whatnot. So,
definitely. Yeah. So get ready for that. Eventually, that campaign sort of fizzled out because of, let's say, certain health concerns globally.
Yes.
And so we had to take a little bit of a break from Green and Garbing.
Yes.
And so we tried to do that a bit in Avernus.
Yes.
The center of Avernus.
We played virtually on Zoom.
And so I guess I'm maybe not talking about Chronicles of Frostfire. This is a bit of a preface here. And when we did Avernus, some of those characters actually might show up a bit because we tried to make all the stories intertwined in some way.
A little bit, yeah. Loosely, some more than others.
Yeah.
Obviously, with Prophecy and Chronicles, pretty tight knit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so Avernus happened, and that ended. Finally, we were able to.
Well, we did Icewind Dale first.
Oh my gosh, that's right, Icewind Dale, and that's sort of loosely-ish connected as well.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that. So more or less, this is 3 campaigns we did, and now, of course, we started Chronicles of Frostfire when we're back in person doing the D&D around the table like it's meant to be, of course, with costumes. Yeah. Because we're huge cosplay nerds. So, okay, now let's talk about Chronicles of Frostfire in earnest.
Yeah, for sure.
So when Chronicles of Frostfire started, we're kind of partway through the Storm King's Thunder campaign book, which again, we're not really using fully, but loosely.
But that arc.
Yeah, that arc. At that point, a lot of the characters have already been solidified.
Yes.
And a lot of the plot had been solidified too. So when it started, there was a main goal, which was to save Faerun from this giant incursions that have been going on.
As the ordning has been
shattered.
royally fucked.
Yeah. And there's a dragon in the background, Imrith, right, which is also one of the main characters there, who's faffing about and doing a lot of chaos.
Yes.
So that one started right outside the Temple of Anam, right, the giant temple. And your goal, the character's goal there was to contact the Oracle and figure out what exactly was going on in the ordning, why everything is a mess in the Sword Coast here. When that started, there was something that had been brewing for a while. We did a little bit of a one-shot where Amalia was pregnant.
Correct.
The other characters didn't know at the time.
Correct.
And that happened, I think, in the Feywilds, right?
Correct.
And Amalia is still pregnant.
Yes. Yes.
And that will show up, I think, in future threads. Because, there's a bit of a time limit there.
Yes, there
Some
is.
say 9 months. And yeah, so when that happened, I think you and Amalia had a bit of a kerfuffle, right?
Yeah, a little. There was some tension about, like, am I ready to take on this responsibility and all these things? Yeah. But then we worked it out like we normally do. And and now we are steamrolling towards I mean, that plot line eventually steamrolls towards prophecy.
Yeah, you're right. And how so? Just even in that first episode, the thread for prophecy opened, right? Prophecy of Shadows, because the prophecy of Shadows was foretold then.
Because we'd been working on that in the background for about 6 months at that
least.
point.
So prophecy of Shadows, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's co-run. It does intermix here a bit, and we'll talk about that. We do co-run that. But this Chronicles of Frostfire, that's all me.
Yeah.
So so they made it into the temple. That's when Basil transformed. Basil became a adult.
Thunderfist.
Basil Thunderfist got blessed by the giants.
Fist.
Hockey Fist became a rune knight and took on giant powers and size and strength and kind of just became a man.
Actually, a really great build. Our character has really enjoyed the way that we have. We should do a separate video on that at some point. Specifically that build.
Fighter armor artificer. No. Artificer, armor, fighter.
Correct.
Rune knight.
Correct. Yeah, and it does some really cool stuff, especially because you can use your intelligence modifier for your attack modifier for your attacks, which is insane.
Yeah, and that is really cool.
Yeah.
So, a lot of flexibility like that with Warlock, with Charisma. Lots of great ways to do that in multi-class and make it, chef's kiss. And Basil,
she's been saying that it's one of her mechanically, it's one of her favorite characters that she's got to play.
Heck yeah!
So,
and that's cool. I recommend it to all DMs. Like, let your players expand and evolve. And even if the character's not enjoying being a fighter, not enjoying being a monk, well, there's plenty of you can retroactively change levels. Like in this way, we did it sort of plot related, where Basil, he was infused by the giants essentially. Correct. To become this multi-class, right? Mm-hmm. So making it lore and making your characters involved in the world, like their actions are the ones that make the change in their character and in the world.
Yeah, instead of it just being like, I'm a fighter now, or I'm a rogue now. Like if you can find a way to, bring your, especially with like warlocks, for example, which we did a lot of in Avernus, but bringing that patron in, having it be a story beat rather than just a mechanical feature, I think we find that really works well.
Yeah. So be flexible with your players for sure, because it makes the stories even better.
Absolutely.
Like when you have these cool, I love doing these transformation sequences for the players. Where, like John becomes a dragon. He's like, transforming his largest wings.
Spoilers, we haven't gotten there yet.
Oh yeah, sorry. No one knows John.
No one knows John is
John, not a dragon. Definitely a sorcerer. So and then Basil allowed everybody to enter the inner sanctum there, and that's when the Oracle appeared, told them what was going on, how they could rectify a situation by finding Imrith, making sure the Storm King's court was, rooted of evil, and so on and so forth. And then when everybody else left, John was stuck. Remember, John got stuck with the Oracle.
And I found out that, my, brand new baby.
You found out, you didn't know Molly was pregnant at the time.
I did not know that Molly was pregnant at the time. I found out, 1, Molly was pregnant, and 2, that the child was cursed. That's a great day.
And then the episode ended there.
That is correct.
And John was like, wait, no! Yeah, so John found out Molly was pregnant there. And at this point, John still didn't know that he actually was a dragon.
Correct.
And that's actually something we've been working on since the original, the pre-YouTube era. That John wanted, when we talked about I want to be a dragon. I was like, yeah, sure, what the hell?
Sure.
Yeah, yes, and. I was like, can we make you a dragon? Yes.
Of course.
So interesting, actually, this is a short aside, is that when you wanted John to become a dragon, I grew up playing Super Nintendo games. If you're a huge nerd, please let me know if you've played these games before in the comments. Breath of Fire. It started Super Nintendo, and the main character could transform into a dragon, right? And I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. It was like, my character wants to do that? I'm like, yes. I will Breath of Fire you. I'll show you that later. Anyway, Sprite games. Then John came out. So what happened when John came out?
He was like, there's something that I need to know. And also there's something you need to know, I think.
Yeah. That was fantastic. And I think they got through that, and I think you and Molly
we're still working through it.
Oh, you're still working through it, yeah.
Because our child is cursed.
Yeah, and the child, of course, as you probably already know if you've watched Prophecy of Shadows, the child is Willow Wellington Wells.
Correct.
Who's a half-dragon because, of course, his father's a dragon. And she has a particular curse, which is that
she's going to bring darkness onto the whole world.
Yes.
Prophecy of
Shadows. Yeah, and we'll get to that in the second half here when we talk about prophecy. So that story beat continued, and at that point they figured out what they had to do, which was to get the information from the Oracle. They'd have to help the giants, the original inhabitants of this area of Faerun, to retrieve the relics.
Correct.
Around the Sword Coast. when they
side quests.
Yeah, side quest, but kind of main quest.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. When they
It was a blast.
exited Annam, they were trying to figure out how to get to these rugs. Like I remember you were like, "Let's make a sled." I should remember the sled thing. We're gonna sled all the way down the spine of the world. And do you remember that? Whose idea was that?
I totally
I just
forgot
remembered
about
it actually.
I totally forgot.
They're gonna sled all the way down the spine of the world, right?
Yeah.
And make it to all the. And I was cool with that, but but actually, what happened was a skyship showed up. A
Very
Hawaii skyship.
convenient.
Yeah, not an airship, but actually a skyship that runs on turtle power, apparently.
Turtle shells.
Teenage
Blue shells.
Yeah, so that showed up, and there's a very unique captain. There's Captain Harlock.
Yes. We love
Dingoes. And what else? Yeah, and then I think Vex showed up before that.
Yeah, she showed up like literally as we were walking out of the temple.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Vex showed up, and Vex is kind of one of my favorite dragon recurring characters. Vex showed up in Origins,
Correct.
and Vex is the first one to sort of show John that he was more than he appeared to be. He wasn't just some
he was
human.
something great.
Yeah, wasn't just human.
Yeah.
He was something more than that, right? And that he was, a dragon, basically.
Yeah.
And so she's back. I gave her a unique sort of Valley Girl accent because, what's more unique than a ferocious dragon with a Valley Girl accent?
They really
Yeah,
are very well
it's a dichotomy.
put together, yes.
Yeah. So I do like Vex a lot. It turns out that
Imrith like Vex's blood.
yeah,
Bitch.
So they spent some time touring around, and I like those little sides because they were like puzzles.
Yeah, we came up with some clever stuff.
You came up with some really clever solutions. That's really cool. So none of that was even planned. Really, there was just relics here, and there's some particular issue obtaining this relic, right? Like there's dryads in the way, or it's cursed, or whatever, or there's a little
icicles are gonna fall from the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. And they kind of just went all out on that, and like one of the most unique, unexpected things was in Razwar. I think that they got it was a giant's shield.
Yeah, the barbarians were coming. We were in a barbarian lair, and the barbarians were coming back, and there were icicles above us, and we had a giant shield, and he was like, "Everybody get under the shield!" And then he made a big noise, and then all the
icicles fell. Yeah,
all the icicles fell, and then we were fine because we were under the giant shield.
Yeah, it was a giant fire giant shield.
All of the barbarians were impaled.
And they won without having to fight. So that's what situations where I had a fight planned, but the fight didn't happen, and that's great. I mean, it's so much cooler that way. Very cinematic.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they went through and got all the giant relics. At that time, and at that time, I think there's a few things. Vahera has had a vision with her. Well, talked with her father.
Yes.
Vahera has her father in a little ruby that they fought during this side quest in the side story.
Correct.
And her father is a huge asshole.
Yeah.
Her D&D father.
Correct.
For Vahera. And that was... I think that relationship is very tense,
Yes.
but also strong.
Yes. So, I mean, her father is a fire, not a fire elemental.
And a freed.
Fire
In a freed, basically.
Yes.
In a freed, in their society, they basically, they take slaves, they kill their, half children. This is kind of like D&D lore, and the Forgotten Realms wiki, it's all there. So it's a very...
Nasty beings.
Yeah, very brutal society. Kind of inhabit the city of Brass, and it's, it's not great. So Vahera's father kind of embodies that, and he doesn't care for Vahera at all. It's what I think Vahera thinks. So there's more to this, and actually this will be explored kind of soon, maybe. So keep an eye out for that.
There's a breadcrumb.
I said nothing. And also Razwar had a vision as well during this time where he found out that he was the son of, of Tempest, the god of war,
Correct.
and Bahamut, which is a good god. So kind of, I think Tempest uses blood and the scale of Bahamut to make Razwar.
Yeah.
I don't think Razwar still doesn't believe that, but
Yes.
we might be exploring that a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And is it true or not? I don't know. Anyway, so that all was transpiring, and you and Amalia were having a lot of sort of figuring out.
Yes.
What's it gonna be
And
like to be-
then we were on our ship,
Mhm.
and that's when Imrith.
Oh, not quite.
There was something happened before that?
Well, sort of, because you got back to the temple. Oh, I
Correct.
do want to mention one more thing, was that while you're on the ship, you found, so there was an injured griffin.
This is
And we
true.
mentioned earlier about Icewind
Yes.
Icewind Dale was a campaign we did sort of when it was just myself, the Mind Flayer Slayer, and Amalia was playing Modi at the time. And that's a pretty crazy,
mind-bending world.
What's going on
My
there.
first stab at DMing.
Yeah,
so.
which was awesome. So the Griffin appeared, which was actually Dristan, who was a Phoenix sorcerer, the kind of main, one of the two main characters from Icewind Dale.
Correct.
He was a Griffin rider during what happened now in Chronicles of Frostfire. His Griffin appeared, and it was after this battle with the Dwagar, and so on and so forth. So there's, we're kind of tying everything in between. So it's a huge family story, like Star Wars, the first 6 good ones, and and not said me, said Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. And so there's a little link there, and that's and then Annie Alice kind of took care of the Griffin. Annie Alice also has a bit of a strong relationship, I think, with Vex.
Yes.
Annie Alice cares a lot about because he's an elf, so he's lived a long time. He cares a lot about all the different species of Faerun.
Yeah.
So I think a good, loving relationship. Unfortunately, as we'll see, Vex didn't make it much longer. They arrived back at the temple. It was heartbreaking. And Vex is like, well, okay, I think we're done here. And she kind of flew off. Mm-hmm. And they went and delivered the relics. They put them all in the right place. And Anam appeared and said, okay, it's time to go get is it conch or conch?
Conch.
Sure. The thing you put in your ear and it sounds like you're in the Pacific Ocean.
The magic conch.
And said, you got to get this to go to the Storm King's court and figure out what's going on, because that's kind of where the nexus of trouble is brewing. And they exited, and they're like, let's have a snowball fight on the ship. Snowing up in the spine of the world.
Yeah.
And
lovely little
this snowball fight is fun. And then suddenly there's a huge ancient blue dragon. The ancient blue dragon has really high challenge level rating. Of course, the breath weapon does way too many d6s. At this point, it can easily annihilate the characters in one hit. And so what's your option? The option is either to die or
fight.
Yeah, fight. Right.
Fight.
The answer was run away. And so Harlock was basically, he's seen a lot of dragons in his lifetime, and based what he knew, what was going on here, he's like, I'm getting this guy's ship out of here.
Yeah.
And so the players, where it's a bit of a chase sequence almost.
Yes.
Actually, in this case. And they thought they got away, and of course, Ancient Blue Dragon is very fast, popping through the clouds, firing the breath weapon. It's like epic. And you did end up fighting. That's right.
Yeah, we did fight.
Yeah, you're like.
And then Vex came in and saved the day.
Yes.
And then.
Yeah, the ship at that point had taken a lot of damage. It wasn't even moving. Imrith had kind of like just clawed her way through the whole ship, and it was just busted. The engines quote unquote weren't working. Yeah.
And then, to avenge Vex. John unleashed his rage and became a dragon for the first time.
Yeah. How'd that feel?
It was epic.
I gave you the dragon. I'm like, here's the dragon. I really handed the dragon sheet to John. I prepped everything. It's the dragon stats, this sort of like Frostfire breath weapon.
Pearlescent dragon.
Yeah, Pearlescent dragon, because we'll find out later, Io, right, is the Pearlescent dragon.
I tried to shoot Imrith out of the sky.
Yeah, Imrith is wounded because it's already taken a lot of damage. Vahera shot, I think, attached like this Dragon Slayer knife to Ballista shot and kind of injured Vex in the arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then...
Not Vex.
I'm sorry, Imrith, yeah, and then Vex came in. I described it like that scene in Game of Thrones, if you've seen the last season, where the dragons kind of fly up in the air and they're fighting, against the moonlight and the snow and the rain. And yeah, Vex, unfortunately, she is not an ancient dragon, and she was kind of critically hit and wounded, and gravely wounded, to the point where after the fight, after John saved everybody, becoming a dragon, Vex was, I think Vahera jumped out.
Correct. Saved
her, and John drove back Imrith. And what happened then, John?
And then we cried over Vex's dying body.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, she died.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was not great.
She's super dead.
Yeah, she's been along for. She's been known for the party for, 2/3 of this whole campaign, like 2 years, 3 years. She's been a household name.
Yes.
Vexalanthus, the Seeker.
Yeah.
She's Copper Dragon. And yeah, she died literally in Annie Alice's arms. Became a dragon soul crystal, basically, and returned more or less to Dragonary, which we'll see. And that was,
there was another breadcrumb there.
There was?
We'll
oh, yeah, we'll see. And that was heavy. That episode ended, it was, you could palpably feel, hopefully you've seen it, This is all spoilers. I need to put that in the title here. DMs confess all.
We were all quite upset.
Yeah, actually really upset.
Quite upset.
Andy Alice afterwards texts me, and he texts me. He's like distraught, and he's like, "I want Vex to live." He's like, "I looked up all these options. I'm like, I want to resurrect Vex," and I was like, "Okay, sure." I was like, if you want to go that route, we can explore that as a possibility. So, really cool when your players come to you and so profoundly moved by the story that's being told, by you, by everybody, and wanting to make something happen, right? Have their characters, and the characters always affect the world, but really want to have a profound effect, and they're like living the world, they're living and breathing the characters. It's amazing. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, absolutely, we're doing this.
Thanks to your narrative brilliance.
Thank you. And so they decided at that point, they had two options at that point. Because right in the next episode, after Vex died.
Correct.
And Taki appeared.
Yes.
With the king dies while living there. Taki sitting in a tree. Yeah. Taki appeared.
They love each other. Ship it.
Yeah, Annie Alice and Taki are amazing. Really cute relationship. They've been together for, probably 100 or 200 years, traveling and so forth. And that goes back. That is like a lore tidbit I took from when they did like a little one shot. And Annie Alice had got a little dragon baby like 200 years ago. And I was like, oh, I'm bringing this dragon. Not a dragon, but kind of got like ended up meeting a dragon, whatever. And they traveled together for a long time. And they have this sort of like if you're an anime fan, it's what's that? The trope of the childhood friend kind of trope. Yes. I think it is.
Yes.
And so I wanted to go that route with that. Mm-hmm. And so Annie Alice and Taki had this relationship, and I think Annie Alice loved it. Yeah. It was really cute. And they're always like kind of like messing around or flirting or whatever, and that's really fun. So Taki appeared and said, had no idea Vex died, but was looking for Annie Alice. And Taki, being a dragon, a member of the dragon tribe, knows where the dragons are, kind of have their safe habitat area, which is kind of the Blood Isles, of Io, and the main city there, which is the city of gold, I think, Exodron, more or less. And that was one of their two. So they had two options there. They could either go to Exodron, right, and that they had a couple options there. Maybe resurrect Vex, maybe find a way to resurrect Vex. John wanted to know who he was, right?
Yes.
Or they could kind of go and try to get the conch.
Yes.
From one of the storm giant.
Correct.
One of the giant lords.
Whose dead brother we talked to in the cave.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That's kind of, and they also had a big beef with ice giants because they actually attacked the beginning of Origins. They attacked Bridge where they were at and like killed like a bunch of people and some person's father. He kind of had like an adopted little girl for a while. Remember that? And so the big beef against ice giants. So they went that route. And actually, instead of just doing one or the other, they did both. They actually did the ice giant on the way to.
And that was another instance of you having a whole fight planned, and we were like, let's pull a heist.
Yeah, I love when players are imaginative. I had a fight plan. I was like, maybe they would fight the giant lord or whatever. And they went there, and they kind of make it like a whole heist thing. They're like, oh, there's the conch. Let's, you distract him. I'll go in from above, and they'll come down and grab the conch, right?
And then we flew out of there with him shaking his his
basically. And so...
You can't!
You damn cats and you damn dragons. And so, they just kind of like heisted that conch out of there.
It was really fun.
And I had
then we headed to the Blood Isles.
Yeah, you did. One thing about this fight I had planned is that, if it doesn't work or, narrative... Again, we just kind of make scenarios, really, and the characters go about it however they want to. Yeah. And make it better or advance a different way. And here, this fight actually, that I had planned with the Ice Giant Lord, I just repurposed that later for another fight, by the way. So I didn't...
That was the one that we did in the court, right?
Yeah, in the court later. I can repurpose that. Yeah. So, nothing lost. Actually, many things gained, nothing lost. Indeed. So they moved then to Exodron, right, to find out about John, not a human. Exodron's really interesting. John. Yeah. I took Exodron, the Blood Isles, from I think it was AD&D, it was a Draconic Comic-Con, I think, or whatever, the Council of Worms, I think it was. It's an official D&D content, a whole book series about the Council of Worms and the Blood Isles, where all the dragons reside. It's so cool, and I kind of fleshed that out into 5th edition as much as I could. Yep. And so, how was it like being amongst your people?
It's pretty crazy. They didn't like us.
Well, no, yeah, I mean...
They didn't like us because, we were humans in Dragonland.
Yeah, and also, because of in fact, to add to that, the dragons had first gone the first Dragon Wars, which were against Dragon Slayers. So people had come to kill dragons.
Yeah, so they thought we were, like, in their house ready to kill them.
Yeah.
Not a great, first impression. But
yeah,
we met a nice green dragon cabbage.
Oh, the cabbage merchant.
Merchant.
Yeah, since some time they ended up trying to figure out how to get an audience with the council.
Yes.
And you met the cabbage merchant, and the cabbage merchant was Fizzman the Fabulous.
Yes.
Is the idea there. So Bahamut, let's say.
Yes.
And is that spoilers? No, I mean, it's pretty obvious, I guess. So yeah, and you got Razorul got a canary. That canary. What do you think about the canary?
I don't have a damn clue what's going on.
Do you have a clue? The canary?
Clearly, it's a dragon.
Clearly a bird. Yes, I agree. Clearly a bird. Clearly a bird.
Another crumble, I guess.
Clearly a bird, and that dragon, and that. Oh my God, no! That canary might have some importance, perhaps, going forward. So keep an eye on that canary. And let's say the canary might just be a bird, not be a bird. And
maybe a bird probably isn't a bird.
Yeah. To get an audience with the council, basically, Enyalius met his future, I don't know what to say, like father-in-law or something.
Yeah, and then we had to fight. We had to prove ourselves in
combat.
In the dragon games.
Yeah, against the hot dragon.
Hot dragon.
It's totally hot dragon. Taki was like...
Yeah, and we were like, I'm going to beat the dragon.
Yeah, that was kind of a crazy, like a dragon fight in the air above the dragon area with all these dragons watching. Cool. And against a dragon, this is a champion, and his... half dragon minions, and they prevailed.
Yes, we did.
And Taki was in that fight too.
Yes.
And you got the audience, right?
Yeah. We got the audience, and it was very heated.
Oh, yeah.
We came in there, and we were like, here's what's going on.
And they were like,
Matt's gonna wake up.
Oh yeah, their whole beef, the reason the council wasn't having an audience is because they're currently debating the rise of Tiamat, right?
Yes.
And if you've seen the episode we did with Joe Manganiello, not with Joe Manganiello, yeah, we started with Joe Manganiello.
It was awesome.
Yeah, Death Saves. So with Archon the Cruel at the end of Avernus, right? You can your characters can meet Archon the Cruel, just Joe Manganiello's character in the Avernus module. So we kind of did a follow up there, and the characters tried to stop Tiamat from rising and did not successfully. So watch that if you're interested in the whole ongoing thing. When we were in Exodron, I think the uncle, who's the custodian, mentioned something about Tiamat.
That's right.
That's right. And then afterwards, the uncle also wanted to talk with Taki and Enyalius about the relationship or whatever.
Yes.
That was kind of off camera, but still really interesting.
So it was a lot of chromatic dragons
at the court. Yeah,
versus
metallic dragons.
Metallic dragons,
and gem dragons,
not liking each other, and us coming in having just beat a bunch of dragons, and then having to be like, I don't want to listen to these people. So that was how that all, and also talking about. Did I mention the thing with Willa? Did I mention the prophecy?
You mentioned the prophecy there.
Oh no! The other thing that we talked about was how we were going to bring Vex back to life.
Oh yeah, Vex. So I think it was a three-pronged approach of the council.
Yes.
They wanted to bring Vex back to life, and they wanted to find out what's going on with John or unchain John or whatever.
Unchain John.
And then and what else? And then Razor decided that he wanted to recruit the dragons to their side should there be an upcoming war. He did that very successfully. Yeah, and so basically, even though in Exodron all the giants are supposed to, all the dragons are supposed to work under the will of Io, which is kind of, they have to work together in harmony. There's a lot of discord going on there. And the metallic dragons and the chromatic dragons are not seeing eye to eye. Because,
per usual.
Yeah, there's a little bit of more going on in the background that might appear. So, so a lot of them didn't want John to be unshackled, but eventually they worked through that. Very, very powerful words, very moving sequences, good high rolls, which I was not expecting.
Yeah, that double nat 20.
I was expecting them to, and it's not just because they roll 20s that they automatically get what they want. But it helps their persuasiveness,
Yes.
Anyway, so long story short, they were able to persuade the dragons more or less. Then at the end, John was unshackled.
Yes. So I can, if I get below half health, if I have half my hit points or less, I can use my action to become a dragon.
Yeah, or bonus action if you use sorcery points.
Correct.
So right now, John isn't at full control of being a dragon yet. It's true.
Correct.
So that way, I clamped it a little bit because it is really strong. In reality, it would be kind of like true polymorph, not just polymorph to become a dragon. That's
exactly.
like 15th level to
It's
get.
pretty super strong.
So it's a little bit, but maybe John will work into it. Use his way into becoming a dragon.
Well, and you're also presenting us with challenge ratings that are quite high.
Yeah, I usually like. Good point. Now you mentioned that. I like giving the players more on the deadly side of challenge ratings because I think it makes for, not all the time, but when I do, I think it makes for more visceral combat that could have consequences if they don't play together or really try hard, if you will. So if it's just easy, it's just kind of like a steamroll. What's the point? I really only make fights if it's going to have some narrative consequence related to what the characters want to do or accomplish. And yeah, so what do you think? Because honestly, in D&D, we've talked about this before, the characters are pretty strong. I mean, D&D characters, 5th edition, are like kind of like superheroes. They're like Avengers. Especially higher, and you have, by the time you're like 10th level or higher, you have 150 hit points, whatever. You take half damage from everything. You fire off like 56 D8 damage a turn and whatever. So you put the challenge in there. Make the players sweat.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my philosophy anyway.
So we left the court of the dragons.
Mm-hmm.
We used the magic conch after, and we floated up in a bubble,
which Razor and Ehalos fell out of. Yeah. They were not able to attend that session.
Yeah. So you work that in.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible to also make that work.
Mm-hmm. If the characters attend, they can still either be part of it somehow, or they can take a little bit of a side quest, whatever.
Yeah. So and then we headed to the Hall of the Storm Giants, right?
Yep. Hall of the Storm Giants.
Where Imrith, that bitch, was in disguise as a giant.
How did you know? I could have played it off a little smoother, but I think there was no way to not know.
We knew.
Yeah, because the Chronicles and Prophecy are kind of coming to a head here a little bit. So, yeah, they found out, of course, because of what Vahera had done, they found out that Imrith was kind of behind the manipulating the Storm King's court. And Sarissa as well, the princess. And they kind of, you rooted out what was going on, right? You figured out what was going on. Basil, I think, found the most information.
Oh my god.
With the rebellion
crab.
Or whatever. Yeah.
The crab, Basil.
They were trapped, so Basil, because Basil's a Rune Knight, has a little bit more sway in the court because he's kind of giant.
Gianty, yeah.
And got just house arrest versus jail. Found a way through the ventilation piping through, quote unquote, in the maelstrom, the court, and ended up having to fight a mustachioed, bulging biceps crab. The ultimate crab battle of Ultimate Destiny.
Yes.
He won.
It was amazing.
Yeah. Not only did Basil win, but he went ahead and tamed the beast. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Everyone should have a crab mount at some point, right? And yeah, good rolls happen. And yeah, Basil. Fortunately, the crab didn't come with them. But yeah, and they ended up finding out what was going on, freed themselves from the prison, and fought down the sort of mind-controlled Uthor at the time. John turned to a dragon in the Storm Giants' court, which was interesting.
Super risky.
Yeah,
but that could have been deadly.
Yeah, because they hate each other. They're
But I was like, no, I care about the giants, and I'm a dragon.
Nice.
And they bought it.
Yeah, they did. And lots of persuasion and persuading, which I think the characters were very good at. A lot of good rhetoric. And after that, they found out that Imrith had been working with the Kraken Society.
Yeah.
To do something or other.
And that's where we're headed next.
Went to Waterdeep because they have an old contact there from Origins. Vahera had a nice evening with a gentleman known as Osk, who was a bit of a corsair, very handsome elf corsair. And now they're going to figure out if they can put the link to that and
kill Imrith.
Yeah. So it's funny that every time there's in the Magic the Gathering, one of the newer sets is Forgotten Realms, and there's Imrith. Imrith is actually a card there. It's a 5/5 flying blue dragon, and it's Imrith.
With war.
Yeah, every time I bring it up, and everyone's like, no, we hate her! She killed our girl!
Yeah, so
yeah,
we're heading toward a conclusion for this one.
Yeah, I think this is gonna Storm King Chronicles of Frostfire, which is kind of the story of John becoming John the Dragon in a way, it's gonna reaching a finale here pretty soon. But this story's not over. There's a lot more to tell, as you know. Tiamat's in the background, and that might start a kind of a new arc or campaign or whatever. So get ready for that. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, we're looking to probably so just so everyone knows, we will be traveling abroad this summer. So there will be a brief break in content, at least in terms of the videos, the long form content.
Yeah.
Where there will be a campaign break, and for both Prophecy and for Chronicles, and so we'll have a brief campaign break. And then toward the end of the summer, early fall, we will be coming back with the second half of Chronicles and the second half of Prophecy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the next couple months look like for the channel.
Yes, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching this far. If you have, we really appreciate it. Oh my God, the support on the channel has been fantastic. We have awesome Green Knights, people who leave cool comments, or in Discord, and Rob Martinez. Leave a comment, Rob Martinez, if you've made it this far. Yeah, we really appreciate everybody. Yeah. It's been fantastic, and we love creating stories and doing this. It's
wonderful.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So we're going to take a brief break here, and then there will be probably a little shorter for because we played less sessions of Prophecy.
Oh, Prophecy of Shadows. Yeah. But you know how that came about.
Yeah, we'll kind of talk about some of that, and then we'll wrap this video up. But thanks so much for staying tuned. We'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
And we're back.
I'm going to talk a bit about Prophecy of Shadows. Now, before we talk about Prophecy of Shadows in earnest here, we got to talk about how Prophecy of Shadows happened. So we decided to do, because I'm currently running Chronicles of Frostfire. Yeah. And having two campaigns for me was a bit much to run kind of concurrently. So Mind Flayer Slayer decided to take the reins on this, and I was like, yeah, so we can have two campaigns going
at the same time.
You know, maybe I can
more content for you.
Yeah, maybe I can play a little bit too. And I was like, this is great. So we decided to do this one kind of like a co-DM it.
Yes.
And by co-DM, I mean we co-create some of the narrative beats and the story and some of the NPCs, whatever.
There's still plenty of stuff I throw your way that you have no idea what's going to go on.
Yeah, and I don't know like half the stuff sometimes, which is fantastic. So that's how that started. It's like, how can we make a campaign and have multiple campaigns going? Really cool campaigns that kind of intermix a little bit. And so yeah, that's when we decided to kind of co-run this. So we thought of the whole narrative structure.
Correct.
And we took it from there. So we
were working on this
before Chronicles,
and then we were still fleshing out things when we were traveling to when we took our Yellowstone trip.
Oh yeah, we took a little Yellowstone trip.
Basically, it was just like driving across the West.
Yeah.
And spending hours
talking about D&D. We're just
while everyone else in the car was like,
asleep or whatever. And there, my Flayer and I were just talking about, okay, what's this campaign? It was like 7 hours in a row on the road. Like, hey, what if this character came in and did this? Oh, what if they all went there and then this happened?
And we wanted to bring in a couple new players, so we brought in some friends that
love D&D also.
That love D&D that we went to college with, and so.
Core and
Gum came in, and they have been an excellent addition to the channel, and quite funny and very engaged, and we love them very much.
Yeah.
Well,
so the reason why in Chronicles, the prophecy happens right with the Oracle. John finds out about the Prophecy of Shadows. We already had the narrative ready to go, at least essentially burgeoning for Prophecy, right? So it's kind of like it's like a future parallel story kind of. And that was started there, so then you could kind of go from there and start wherever you wanted. Yeah, so Prophecy began with John Wellington Wells, the same John Wellington Wells, ostensibly, just a little bit older. Just old man. And
gray in his hair and glasses.
In Purple Springs.
Yes.
and a city, a town, I guess,
Yes.
in the Feywilds. And John, of course, had, as the prophecy foretold, had a child, which is Willow, with Amalia. And at the beginning of prophecy,
Amalia is missing.
Amalia's missing.
But John's been lying about it.
Oh, no.
And Willa hates him.
Yeah, because Willow's playing a angsty teenager in this case.
Super angsty. We just want to protect her and keep her safe. But, like, she has a feeling about that, I guess.
So John's playing a very protective dad because John knows a lot, and Will doesn't know or isn't ready yet for.
And John has lost his...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, John has lost his powers.
John has lost his powers at this point, so...
And so
there are still many stakes to come, even though we know that John's survived.
Yeah, why is John in the Feywild? Well, does John survive? I mean, John's in the Feywilds.
I guess that's true.
John's not in the Feyre anymore.
That's true.
And John has no powers. We don't know where Amalia is. And so, yeah, this is the future we're talking about.
Yeah.
Theoretically. And, yeah, so Will is there. All of Willow's friends are there, which is Alvy, who's a longtime BFF. Mm-hmm. It's a fairy, a librarian. Also a barbarian, barbarian. Mm-hmm. And then Gum, who is a Hexblade Warlock, has a unique patron. And as amnesia and is kind of like, it protects Purple Springs, but it's a bit of an outsider. Yeah. And then Core, who has a unique backstory, and
connection to Amalia.
Amalia, yeah.
Yes.
And John, but they don't get on so well.
And she thinks the first episode she thought that I was having, with this other lady who is Risa, who was Sister Gorell,
who was his ex-fiance.
Who was my ex-fiance. But we're just friends now.
Yeah, just friends. Just
friends. But Will had some kind of feeling about it.
Yeah, Will doesn't see it that way, right? When actually they're trying to figure out how to protect Willa, perhaps, for the Feywilds and so on and so forth.
She's like, it's my birthday. I don't want to deal with this. And she storms off. And she goes into the woods with her friends. And she's going to do this ritual when a dark portal to the Nether Sphere opens up.
Yeah, to the Shadowfell in this case.
Shadowfell. And
Shadow Dragon pops out and kind of just starts obliterating the Feywilds, killing everything that's living, and chasing them. They flee back to Purple Springs. Purple Springs is not safe. John throws his Mind Flayer dagger. Doesn't kill a dragon.
Yeah. Lost. And then I get, smacked into a wall or something. And
and the defenses don't hold. The dragon breaks through. The dragon seems to be wanting to attack Willa. And Willa has a sudden vision, which Selune, the goddess of light, was the goddess of the moon, right? But really, she's one of the two goddesses of creation, which is Shar, goddess of darkness, and Selune, goddess of light, right? Together they kind of ushered in light and darkness in the world. One of the two, creator goddesses. In this case, the Selune appears to Willa and says, "You're my warrior of light. I need you to drive back the darkness, and I'll give you kind of my powers to do so. And your friends, you need to go to the right. Or no, I think that's it. Just drive back the darkness.
Just drive back the darkness.
Yeah.
And then she casts this super powerful thing that shouldn't have worked.
Yeah, insta kill. One shot kills the dragon.
Dragon disappears.
Yeah, it looks like it was killed.
Portal is closed.
Yeah.
John is real mad. He's like, go to your room. You need to be careful.
And Willa says, no, I'm not going to my room. And Willa's like, I'm going to try to see what's going on, because they get a vision that the portal isn't fully closed, and that maybe, because I think Reese talks a bit about the prophecy and how Amalia is maybe still alive, and Willa's like,
because Willa didn't know that her mom was missing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she suspected, but she finally finds out that for a year, John has been telling her that that Amalia is on a spiritual pilgrimage, and she has in fact been missing. Which Core knows something about. Anyways, her band of friends, they all head out into the woods, very Hobbit style.
That was really cool, yeah.
And they go to take a look at this portal and see what's going on and figure out, what's going to happen, and then they all get sucked in.
The portal takes a look at them.
Yes.
Says, yummy! And takes all our heroes here, these warriors of light, and now they are within the Shadowfell, not just the Shadowfell, but the domains of dread. And now, what the main overarching, I guess, the book we're using
is Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft.
Yeah, which has all the domains of dread. Really cool. We're kind of using that as a bit of a source material here and there.
Some of the domains for example, the first domain we came up with from scratch. Dean Ozoria, because I'm a big Jurassic Park nerd.
It's not Jurassic Park. Dinosaur, not Jurassic Park. You want to talk about that?
Yeah,
and that's where I kind of handed off the reins. And my Flare Slayer I DM'd before, of course, with Icewind Dale. It's fantastic. And so, but he took now the
reins.
The reins for DMing, and we play, which they'll meet there, these twins. We're both kind of playing them in a way because we're both also kind of DMing. So it works that way.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there's these adorable, cute, little precious
vampire hunters. Yeah, they're badass, but also kind of cunning, and also very innocent in a way too.
Very adorable.
Yeah,
very adorable. So, they meet these characters fighting these disgusting flesh dinosaur monsters.
Yeah.
And they're kind of in this Neolithic world, and it's very, meteors are crashing, and it's very end of the world vibes, but also dinosaurs. And so our characters were trying to survive through that, and then they got caught in a trap, and were taken to this Neolithic village. That was in this massive, dead, petrified tree trunk.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Which is one of the only places they can hide from the dinosaurs. And everyone in the Neolithic village was starving, and so they were quested with going out to kill one of these monsters, one to help save them, and two so that they could eat. And so our heroes headed out to
do the heroic thing.
Do the right thing.
But unlike Chronicles, where it's more like heroic high fantasy, this is more like dark fantasy. So
dark fantasy.
So things are dark fantasy 4. So things aren't what they appear, right? It's certainly more twisted in that way.
Yeah. So they go out, they kill the monster. The village drags the monster back in, and they start getting it all cooked up and ready to go. And then there's this weird. The characters feel like something's off, and I believe Alvi saw some weird cave drawings, paintings, and then. Long story short, at the big feast, eating the flesh of these monsters causes you to turn into these monsters. So all of the town turned into it's this weird twisted cycle, as most of the domains of dread are, that it's a cyclical, sort of monotonous horror.
Yeah.
And so the humans rise up, and then they end up eating so that they can live, and then turn into more monsters. And our characters hightailed it out of there.
And I think that was your genius, brilliance. I think my Flare Slayer is more of a darker twist on Dungeons and Dragons than I do.
Yeah.
And so I think that makes two really unique campaigns in that way. It's fantastic. So
they hightailed it out of there. They kind of crushed the door to the stump entrance.
That exit was probably unexpected, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then they headed out, and Xavier and Xander, the characters that we play, mostly that you play, they caught the tracks for the people that they had originally said that they could lead our party to, which is the Visanti or the Mistwalkers. Yeah. And so by finding the Mistwalkers, they could perhaps get out of this domain and get to another one, and try to figure out what's going on. So we headed out. We found the Mistwalkers, and in a trade,
the tarot cards. Yeah, that was incredible.
Yes.
You haven't seen that scene in episode 2 of Prophecy of Shadows,
and we have it clipped as well.
Yeah, that's true. We did have the clip where, as DM, my Flare Slayer goes to and gets individual tarot card readings for all the players, and it is kind of like it's dark and mystical, and just it's a really powerful moment.
Thank you.
And yeah, I was blown away.
So everybody gets their futures, their past, present, and futures read.
And keep those in mind, because I think you'll kind of they're hints.
There are definitely lots of hints within there. Some very foreboding information for some people to be hearing, and then basically in exchange for reading them, they were given the gift of being able to travel through the mists. Yeah. Specifically, Xavier and Xander were blessed with this sort of ability that they don't quite understand, can't quite control, of how to open the portals.
And so that's the idea of this campaign. It's kind of going from domain of dread, different horrors, right?
Yes.
Different types of horror, psychological horrors, body horrors,
Gothic horror.
Yeah, Gothic horror, Eldritch horror.
Yeah.
So you kind of get the whole gamut of horrors and how the characters come to terms with that and experience that. And that's kind of how this campaign is going to revolve. And it's really cool because it's always constantly changing and evolving.
Exactly.
And yeah, the horrors never end.
Well, and the reason that they are
It's like Guillermo del Toro over here. Yeah.
the reason that they are traveling between campaigns, sorry, traveling between worlds, or domains is Xavier and Xander reveal that there is this Rod of the Four Moons, which is an ancient weapon
of
Selûne, and it can be used to drive back the darkness.
Yeah,
and they have one of the
shards,
pieces to this, and they start to realize that the pieces to the Rod of the Four Moons are scattered throughout the domains of Dread. And this is a little behind the scenes of why we did this, because I don't think that this is spoilers.
Sure.
But why we did this was, the idea is that this rod is so powerful that it had to be separated and split up so that it couldn't be used for any other purpose, like so that it couldn't fall into the wrong hands. And so what we did is we thought, if it's hidden throughout the different domains of Dread, it's very difficult to travel between them.
The mishap lets you actually travel.
And Dark Lords would hoard an artifact because the artifacts on themselves have an incredible amount of power.
Yeah.
Even when they're separated. And so if you gave the Dark Lords pieces and they were kind of scattered throughout the domains of Dread, they would never be able to leave their own domain, so they could never gather the other piece, and they would be very protective of it in wanting to keep its power.
So the question is, whose idea was this? Why is the rod broken up? What's going to happen when the characters put together the rod, which was used by Selûne to drive back the darkness. And Shar, because they're constantly in battle for light and dark. So I think the ramifications of this will kind of be made a little more clear in the next few episodes, because we will be kind of coming to an end of Prophecy of Shadows, and it will continue into something else.
Correct. So once they left Dinosaria, they ended up in Dementlieu, which is
French domain.
The French domain, which is a domain of where everything is not as it appears. So it's a lot of facade, lavish wealth, and but a lot of horror under the surface. So they arrived in this domain.
And when we thought about this domain ahead of time, right, we thought we want to kind of, because it's smaller cast here, right, we want to kind of protagonize the players when we can.
Yeah.
And here we wanted to make sure that Gum, we got the first hints of Gum's past.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which had kind of been alluded to in the tarot card reading, but.
Oh yeah.
But so we started to Gum had a flashback in which he.
Well, that's when they went to the Hags, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
So they had to find a way to get to where the Dark Lord had the artifact that Xander were able to identify. And to get there, they had to get a masquerade costume or get like a accepted...
To go to this ball.
Yeah, to go to the masquerade. Yeah, to go to the masquerade or get a invitation letter or whatever. One of the easiest ways was to go to the Hag, so the characters decided to go ahead and just take that route.
They thought they were going to Fairy Godmother.
Oh, that's right.
Surprise! Yeah. They were these horrific hags, and they all shared one eyeball.
Yeah. Which is, I think you role-played that terrifically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was actually an idea from a friend at work. The eyeball thing.
Yeah, Hercules?
Using the Greek mythology.
Oh, yeah, using the Greek mythology. Yeah, the fates.
Yes.
That's great. And so, go ahead and talk about how you planned.
Yeah, so basically we had this whole, the hags did sort of another reading kind of the characters and revealed that Gum's a bit of Gum's past to all of the characters and to him, because he has amnesia and can't remember everything. So Gum became aware that he had made some deal with some entity named Hirscham,
who was visually a
satyr.
Okay.
And was tricked in thinking he was going to get power in some way, was tricked by Hirscham into causing the collapse of a society, and also Hirscham turned Gum into a satyr and caused him to not remember anything. So.
Yeah. And so the characters, that all happened. So the fates were the Hags were happy with this kind of like information and darkness that they had taken. And so they finally made it to the ball, right?
Correct.
And the ball, I think we planned as like a multi-stage. The characters had to try to advance up to the higher levels of the ball,
Correct.
right?
Where the Dark Lord was stationed.
Was stationed, at a high station, actually.
Yes.
I think it worked physically and metaphysically.
Yes.
And socially. So they ended up having, through a lot of shenanigans, made it to the top, got him seduced or something.
Basically.
Yeah. And they ended up, they had a fight with the Dark Lord?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
And secured the artifact and got out of Dodge.
And got out of there. The mist key tattoos activated on Xavier and Xander, and they appeared out of there. So now we ended up in Lemortia, correct?
Is that the next one? Oh yeah, it's the third domain we've been to. Yeah.
So Lemortia is where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
So our characters are a little. They're good with Gum, but also there's some question there.
Yeah, I'd say.
And something that we missed from the last domain is that Core had kind of started to develop feelings for an NPC that was in Dementlieu and then was left behind. She was not able to save her. And that caused a lot of turmoil within Core.
Yeah, and I think it maybe brought back some memories
Of some of the things that she had to share.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I think that triggered that beautiful moment with Willa and Core. I think they were in the library of the university.
Where she essentially said that she had been the protector of the empress of this kingdom, and that they basically one day everyone just disappeared and she hasn't known, and that part of what the connection that Core had with Amalia was that they were looking into trying to figure out what had happened to this kingdom in the Feywilds. And that was actually when Amalia, a portal opened and sucked Amalia into it. And so Core kind of thinks that the portals have something to do with what might have happened to her people.
Perhaps. And I think, again, we're going to explore pretty soon. I jumped the gun a bit because once they entered that domain, I think they met, a little bit of the plot was they met the mad scientists, right? And they had
Yes, and they had to fight off a big sludge monster that ended up being a cute little puppy dog. And they spent some time at the university because in Lemortia, it's very much Frankenstein-inspired, Mary Shelley-inspired campaign setting.
Yeah, very cool.
So there's a big university where they do all kinds of horrific body horror things. And they spent some time there and met some shady individuals.
A lot of shady individuals there.
A lot of shady
individuals in the Shadowfell, i.e., Domains of Dread.
And basically, eventually because they decided not to kill the big gooey monster thing, they were given refuge inside the university and invited to travel to Dr. Victra Mordenheim's estate, where her laboratory is, and see the true marvels of what the domain has to offer up close.
And we had the murder mystery.
Yes, and there was a murder mystery based off of... and then there were non-clue, but also the Family Guy episode that spoofs both of those things.
So that actually took a while to come up with the overarching sort of narrative beats there. And I think we kind of left it at, the murder mystery, and you really fleshed it out to be what it was.
I had everybody color-coded because there were so many different characters.
Yeah.
I had to do, oh my gosh, I did like 10 voices that night. It was a lot.
It was fantastic. I mean, that's some supreme dungeon mastering there. So check that out if you want some inspiration. How to play 75 characters in 1 hour. And I think that this is going to lead,
the murder mystery was... everyone died, essentially. Except for our characters who were gassed.
Yeah.
And knocked unconscious. And where are they going to wake up next is where we're going to be picking up the next episode.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think the next episode, you're going to see a lot of... Because we're going to wrap this up here in a few, not short amount of time, but in a reasonable amount of time, you're going to see a lot of backstory, a lot of character motivations, a lot of character threads really become palpable, come to light here.
Lots of drama.
Get ready for a lot of drama. And we're not doing anything. We're just being, here you go. We're just unlocking the door to character backstory, and then they're going to let it let it happen how it will. So.
Yes.
I do want to talk about maybe our process a little bit for a moment. Of how
sure.
So, as I mentioned at the beginning, and that's the end of where we're caught up, I think, for Prophecy of Shadows.
That gets you caught up.
But it's more than possible, and I think it's actually pretty easy, if not better, to co-DM a campaign. You think, oh wait, the other player, whoever's not DMing at the time, knows everything, right? But I think you just need to play it as if you were the character. As long as you're playing in character and role playing, there's no reason why you as the non-DM at the time needs to be like, oh wait, I know exactly what's going to happen. Hey, let's go left instead of right because I know that if you go right, all the monsters are there. So It's really easy, and in fact, it makes for much better plotting. I mean, two heads is better than one, is the saying.
Yeah, and the storytelling in coming up with larger arcs is something that we spent a lot of time working on, like, what do we want the journey of this character to be over the campaign. It doesn't mean that it's like this has to happen here and this has to happen here, but like, what do you want to do as a character other than just like get lots of spells and kill lots of monsters? So like, what do you want your journey to be? And so we spent a lot of time talking with our characters about that beforehand. And we shape the campaign beats around those things.
Totally around the characters. The characters are the first and most important part of your story. The first and most important part of any story. You watch a movie, you watch a television show. The plot is nice, but what really brings you in as a viewer and as a lover of literature or whatever are the characters. So for us, always, and you should consider if you're a DM as well, make the characters your priority. And when they come and say, I'd like to explore this part of my character's past, or what if I went towards this power, this multi-class, make that the story. Yeah. So
it actually makes your job a lot easier.
It does.
And more fun.
Yeah, way more fun, because when that happens and the characters truly like protagonize themselves in the world, I mean, as we've seen with like John becoming a dragon, that is like part of Chronicles of Frostfire, right? Because it's the Frostfire is John, or Willa being part of the Prophecy of Shadows. So
and those started with me coming to you and being like, hey, I want to be a dragon.
Yeah, that comes. It just brings.
And it created a whole campaign essentially.
Yep, that's it. Let the characters build the story for you, really, and all you have to do is kind of have the motivation for the NPCs. Maybe have some overarching goal for the character, but they're going to make your story run.
Yeah, and you can having those beats prepared, having an idea of where you want people to go and how you want the session to look. Things are always going to change. But if you're over prepared, it just means that you're more prepared to react to change.
Well, that's a really cool way to think about it. So and we do prepare quite a bit. Not in an overburdening way, but so we have options.
Yes.
And so co-DMing, fantastic, truly recommended.
Especially for new DMs, because it allows you, because there is an element of, and we don't do a lot of this, I'm not saying we've never done it, but there is an element of, like, if there is a really important story beat that we want to highlight, and we do want
not to be so artificial, maybe. So the character kind of
so that you kind of like you can help steer a little bit. We never want you to actually be like you said, oh, the monsters are over there. Yeah. But like you can help steer moments here and there, or if you get flustered as a DM, like when you're new, because I know I have.
That's right. And so the off DM in this case, who's playing a player, it can be like, I think I've done it quite a few times. Like, oh wait, do you remember this thing everybody just talked about? What if we went that? What if that was a possibility, right? And the character can be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Exactly.
And so it's wonderful. It's like teamwork.
It allows the collaborative storytelling to be next level and even more natural. And so. Yeah, there is a way to do it. Like I said, a lot of things. There are a lot of things you don't know. And there are a lot of things I don't know because, and that both of us don't know, because people are going to react how they're going to react. And we have to adjust in the moment to how they're going to react.
Yeah, so. It's so amazing. D&D is the best.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, tabletop RPGs are the shiz. So, I think that pretty much wraps up.
Yeah.
You've heard our take now on Prophecy of Shadows and Chronicles of Frostfire, where it all started, where things might be heading, how things might be heading, concluding or moving on, and how we do a little bit of our process. And I hope you learned a little bit and
enjoyed a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And again, thank you for watching our content and
all your
support, comments, subscribing. Smiting that like button, like, we so appreciate it, and we are so excited to continue to upgrade and keep bringing you the highest quality content that we believe all of you deserve. It's just an absolute an absolute pleasure for us.
Right, and like what's kept us moving forward has been like that, like the subscriptions or somebody leaving a really nice comment or whatever. And I mean, whenever there's a comment, we kind of share that on the whole group, and it really gets everybody hyped and motivated. And it's and so it's between the community and us, we're kind of building something together, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but boy, so more to come, more
next
D&D, and please feel free to leave a comment if there's anything else you'd like to see us talk about or whatever. We're happy to discuss.
Absolutely. Smite that like button. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.